First-person shooters have innovated a lot over the years, despite the basic goals of aim at nuisance and eradicate with button press have remained the same. Along with dragging the reticule to an unwitting target, there are certain things that are always bound to happen when starting a first-person shooter. So let's take a look at 15 here. Changing mouse sensitivity. The most obvious thing you'd probably do when loading up an FPS for the first time is changing the mouse sensitivity. Key bindings are also important, but achieving that perfect mix of hipfire and ADS sensitivity, which is neither too twitchy nor too slow, is important. Of course, you could always just rip off your favorite Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, etc. streamer sensitivity, because the act of choosing is a nightmare, and we won't judge. Adjusting graphics settings. Will having a higher frame rate in a competitive shooter automatically make you better at the game? Well, no. But is a better frame rate for that constant fluidity of motion important? Absolutely. Even when playing in a game's campaign, having that perfect mix of graphic fidelity and solid 60 to 120 frames per second is key to a worthwhile experience. Seeing your feet. Many first-person shooters in the old days wouldn't model the player character's waist or legs because, well, what was the point? Games have gotten more complex since then, implementing full models and, yes, the ability to see one's feet. Such titles include Mirror's Edge, Fear, and even Killzone 3. Though things feel more immersive, it also makes you wonder, can I shoot myself in the foot and die? Which button for grenades? The default key for grenades in a first-person shooter is G, right? Then you hop into Destiny 2 and everything is all twisted. V is for your class ability or super or some such nonsense, while grenade is F. Remapping keys often helps in that regard, but sometimes you just couldn't help but press buttons to check which one grenade was, or melee, even if it led to death. Friendly fire. You probably shouldn't do this in Rainbow Six Siege or really any game with allied NPCs. But why wouldn't you shoot your teammates just to see if friendly fire is on? Sure, you'll get kicked from the game, see the game over screen, or generally be told off for how horrible you are. Those are a few reasons, but your curiosity is sated, and that's really what's most important. Kill friends, receive ammo. In the case of Half-Life, shooting your friends to death has a purpose, a much higher, grander purpose called, I can make better use of that ammo than you. In Valve's classic shooter, shooting Barneys carrying guns just for their ammo is definitely a tactic. Since then, we've always been curious to see if other allied NPCs follow this trend, with mixed results. Looking for enemies. Don't know where to go next? Well, don't worry, just look for the next enemy. At least that's how it usually worked in shooters like Doom, which required killing all the enemies in an area to progress. Then again, it also works in the new Doom, where enemies often dotted the path to your next objective. In this age of waypoints and guided paths, simply following the next target to kill is often the best method. Methods of recovery. Some games automatically present you with a health bar, meaning you have to find meat, medkits, or armor to top yourself off. Other titles like Destiny are very good at reminding you to take cover and recover, reinforcing bullet storms, bloody screens, so real joke. Then there are games like Doom, where the quickest way to good health is through ripping and tearing a demon apart thanks to glory kills. Either way, you often know that the best way to recover health isn't by eating tons of bullets. Constantly reloading. Have you fired one bullet and sought to immediately reload? How about firing a weapon that doesn't even have a reload button and compulsively reloading it anyway? It's happened to the best of us, especially in the heat of online matches where reloading could mean dying if someone catches you off guard. Still, it's hard to resist the sight of a full magazine. Scavenging for ammo. No matter which shooter you play, ammo will constantly be a concern. How do you get more Lancer ammo in Gears of War? And no, picking up a Hammerburst isn't an option. Why isn't special and heavy ammo dropping despite killing hordes of enemies in Destiny 2? Though the new seasonal mods somewhat solve this problem. Of course, if it's Doom, the answer is very simple, yet again. Chainsaw an enemy to death and be rewarded with bullets. Missed snipes. Sniping is one of those guilty pleasures in a first-person shooter. You go from knocking mobs in single player to missing every single shot in multiplayer. You're not very good with Widowmaker in Overwatch, but this time you swear you'll make a difference. How is it so easy for some people and such a struggle for others? The question continues to be asked. Reaching impossible spots. Borderlands 3 is great for a number of reasons, but it also feeds into a basic desire. The desire to reach impossible spots for something, anything. Loot chests, radio tower, collectible, there's usually some inane way to get up there, whether the designers intended it or not. And let's be honest, speedruns for games like Prey wouldn't even exist if players weren't trying to reach all kinds of unintended locations. Will it explode? Red barrels often explode. You know this regardless of the game or genre. But what if it isn't a red barrel before you? It seems to be glowing. It's near some enemies. Maybe you should shoot it. This can be especially hilarious in Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, and Borderlands 3, since there are a variety of different barrels and objects that could explode and cause all kinds of mayhem. Aim for the head. Regardless of the game, whether it's a realistic shooter or sci-fi title, aiming for the head is always instinctive. It's often the critical spot for an enemy and deals extra damage to them. Sometimes that critical spot will be in a different location, but the same principle applies. Headshots can also lead to a satisfying splat, so there's even more reason to go for them. Checking weapon perks. So you've just defeated a boss in Destiny 2 or Borderlands 3. What's next for the story? You'll probably find out right after you check the perks on the item that just dropped. A legendary may seem nice in Borderlands 3, but what is it and does it have the right perks? Finding out the mystery behind the Garden of Salvation raid in Destiny 2 Shadowkeep sounds neat, but right after you check if that pulse rifle or shotgun is any good. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.